when you sleep in a
Oh.
porta potty, which sounds like something that you've done before,
Yes.
where do you actually sleep? On
You
the
sleep
floor?
as far away from the
On
toilet
the
as you
floor?
can.
There's not more than an inch away from the toilet.
Well, it's the one that's near the RV is a handicapped porta potty, which maybe we're forgetting, and so that is an I couldn't sleep in a regular one because I couldn't stretch out. Not worth your time, right? But if I could lay down on my pad in a handicap potty, like that's plenty of room.
Wow.
I'm speechless here. I'm signing off. Okay.
He's holding his head.
Yeah, this is how he spends his summer vacations. He teaches all year long, looking forward to going out, walking in the rain, sleeping in porta potties.
And you know what? That's up.
Yeah. Well,
100%.
I guess, Chris, what you're not telling us is it's all about the pizza at the end of the hike.
That's correct. There's a lot of benefits. Losing weight is great. And just, the guy that did the PCT said it, it's just type 2 fun. Like I absolutely hated it when I was doing it. But I love a sense of accomplishment. Like that's why I wanted it.
The bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
Whereas Panther Mountain is totally opposite. It's a mountain on top of a crater.
I think the weather challenges on this incident were particularly difficult.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast.
So episode 142. Tonight we're going to talk with Chris Leblanc. Is that how you say the last name? I didn't go through with that. I always don't do that.
Yeah, Leblanc that's perfectly good.
Okay, so Chris did recently the long path, fastest known time, unsupported, 9 days. What, 35 minutes? 9 days? 35 minutes?
9 days and 35 minutes.
Jesus
a little bummed by that time, but we'll talk about that later.
Jesus, bummed by that freaking time. That sounds like a day I would do like Devil's Path. So episode 142. I wanted to bring up one thing real quick. 1 mile challenge I did for the Guardian Revival, another summit. We raised over $1,400, actually $1,499, was absolutely phenomenal. So once again, thank you to anybody and everybody who has donated to that. It was a very successful campaign, and that's all going to veterans and first responders. Awesome time. Had a great time. People donating, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and definitely goes to a great cause. So let's also get on to something else. I have been going crazily into this Northern Lights. We have had a major coronal. How do you say it? Coronal mass ejection.
I'm going to ask our editorial department to comment on that. I'm going to take a pass.
That's a word I've never heard.
Yeah, and anything that's potentially embarrassing to me, just move on.
It's gonna make it embarrassing to me. So I think it's a coronal mass ejection that happens from the sun. Just a big, huge a burst of plasma comes out from the sun and then hits Earth, and then it creates the aurora. Now, we have had some crazy aurora in the past couple days up here in upstate New York. I don't know if you guys, Chris, where are you located, sir?
Raleigh, North Carolina. I've never seen a northern light, but one day I do hope to.
Yeah, come back up. Like the last few days, I've been seeing everybody having it, and I've tried. I went up north of my house, up to a reservoir to see if I can find it, and I got a tiny bit. I should have posted it, but a tiny bit of red that you could see in there. Nothing to the naked eye. That's what sucks. You can't.
What time did you go out to check this out?
8:30.
8:30. Well, that's not bad. We should take a break tonight. Chris, we're taking a break at 8:30. You can sit tight, but Stosh and I are heading outside to look north to see the light.
I'll see absolutely nothing, but you guys do that. I wish I was that lucky. One day.
I want to see it to the point of like where like northern Canada has it, and Iceland, stuff like that would be absolutely phenomenal. But I've heard good things in the past 3 to 4 days that they've seen green and red and stuff like that. So if you're able to get out at dark, away from any light pollution, the later the better. I've heard I know it sounds really horrible. I 12 o'clock to like 2 p.m., 12 p.m. or a.m. to 2 a.m. Sorry, you can get the best sights of the aurora that happens. So yeah, and we had Hurricane Helene last week, and now we have Hurricane Milton this week. Once again, Chris, this is No Holds Barred podcast. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I mean, Hurricane Helen is making things happen and made things happen in North Carolina, and that's something I definitely am aware of. Every single person that I know that is a teacher in Asheville, their schools are straight up canceled for forever. And I mean, that's just the start. If the infrastructure for the entire city of Asheville is ruined, you can only imagine how the trails are down south. So it's an entire just a terrible situation for everyone out there, and I really feel bad for the mountains that I do go in as frequently as possible. I was going to go to Linville that weekend, and that was our plan, and then as the hurricane was coming, I was like, maybe we don't go to Linville this weekend, and I think I made the right call.
Yeah. How far are you away
Definitely.
from the Blue Ridge Parkway and stuff like that?
About 3 hours. About 3 hours.
That's a nice long trip, but it's worth it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. And did you see anything down in your area that was significant like that in the mountains?
No, we had school canceled and it rained a lot, but nothing compared to, the absolute devastation. You wouldn't even expect it with the way that, I've just never really would have thought Asheville would have flooded. Couldn't imagine it in a million years. And there you go. Just absolutely destroyed. So not a good situation.
A lot of it had to do with, of course, like levees being broken, dams, stuff like that, and the destruction. I always say that the water, the force of water is unstoppable, and it's the most destructive. It's the most unpredictable. Flash floods are what they are. They're flash. You're just like, holy shit. Well, we can't do anything about it, and you just watch it happen. Hurricanes you can avoid,
Yeah, mudslides taking out like houses too out of nowhere too.
Yeah.
The sides of mountains just coming down. It's a thing.
Yeah. So once again, like that part of that area is the Appalachian Trail down there in the North Carolina area, Tennessee region. And I read a recent report that most of it is intact. There's only about 4 or 5 miles that has become completely destroyed, and they might have to reroute or redo that. But as of right now, it's actually not bad. Collapsed bridges here and there, a lot of mud, a lot of stuff that basically you see in the Adirondacks. That way we don't want to go up there. And I heard it's not bad, but as in terms of people's homes, the livelihood of the area, we all know, if you follow the Appalachian Trail stuff, those towns are the heart of the Appalachian Trail. You get supplies through there, you get love, people like greet you, stuff like that. It's based on the Appalachian Trail. So It's good to hear that, but it's also at the same time, we have Milton coming through, which just increased to a Category 5 hurricane with 910. What was it again? Millibars, Ted? We messed that up last time.
Yeah, I don't know what the current readings are, but it's going to be a storm of epic proportion.
Yeah.
And other than hitting Florida, I'm not certain now that they've forecasted its trajectory.
I don't think it should be coming through the Carolinas, fortunately enough for those folks.
Yeah, they don't need another storm for a few more years, at least.
Yeah, if that, yeah. So good news for the Appalachian Trail, but once again, still horrible news for that part of America that was destroyed by a powerful hurricane. And then we got another one coming in. As of right now, it's Tuesday, and that was just increased to another Category 5 hurricane, and it's headed straight for the part of middle Florida. And it's just everybody's saying this is another. Once again, it's just freaking keeps happening. Storm of the century, and. As we said, people might say that might increase to a Category 6, which has never happened in life. So Pretty crazy stuff. So once again, anybody who is listening down in Florida, which I highly doubt anybody is listening down in Florida, nobody really listens in New York State anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of a stretch saying we have listeners down in Florida.
There might be one, you know.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Just
Thanks
a
for that
snowbird.
vote of confidence, buddy.
Okay,
yeah.
there's two of them, and they're really good friends, though.
Excellent.
Good point. Good point. So I know this is total flip flop of a conversation, but just want to let people know, if they're on the market, that there is a ski center up in Tupper Lake area, up in the Adirondacks, that is for sale. So if you have $550,000 and you're interested in purchasing the former Big Tupper Ski Center, it will go on bid on November 7th in Malone. So it's a private marina of vacant land, about 240 acres, located north of Franklin County, and it's set to be auctioned by the courthouse. Now, they say that a minimum bid is set at $468,000 for the closed ski center alone. Now, the bidder needs to register $100,000 in resources, and there's 3 other parcels around the area that are going to be sold. And I didn't read a lot about the background of this, why it was shut down and stuff like that. It actually looks like a nice ski center. It looks like they had some good runs. Very small, though, for the Adirondacks.
Well, it was originally it started off as a locally built and owned ski area by the local township, ran that way for decades, and then it was bought by private owners, I think in the 80s, went through a few different ownerships, and then some folks came along around the early 2000s and thought they'd be able to up the game, do some development there, and a variety of things. And then I heard that there was some infighting amongst the developers. They couldn't get their financing in order, and eventually they lost the property to the county for the non-payment of taxes. So that's where that weird amount of $400 and some odd dollars comes together. That's what I understand to be the amount due for unpaid taxes on this dysfunctional ski area. I also read that they stripped all of the snowmaking equipment out of the area, because obviously if you're running a ski area in the Northeast and you can get your hands on some cheap snowmaking equipment, you're going to do so. So that was sold off a few years ago. But Chris, if you're looking to move up north and get a front row view of those northern lights, this might be that opportunity that you're looking for.
The teacher salary, they once they increase my pay, I'll be up there for sure. Yeah,
you'd be the one
that'll be my summer home.
The open bidder is Chris going to be up there. Set.
We have to tell Chris you don't operate a ski area during your summer break.
Oh no.
Emphasis is on winter activity. Okay, so that concludes tonight's show.
Right. You better. So another thing that was said is that somebody, the Tupper Lake supervisor, has his fingers crossed. He says that he's willing to invest in restarting the downhill recreation, which estimates would cost around $15 million for snowmaking, chairlifts, and other restoration expenses. So you're going to put $468,000 down and another $15 million. This sounds like something for the Wyndham ski center area to take over, don't you think, Ted?
Yeah. It's hope springs eternal, but in this day and age of warming temperatures and marginal winters, it's a pretty risk investment to get involved in owning and operating a ski area. But I can see why the town supervisor wants to do it, because they do provide seasonal jobs.
I've walked across a couple of downhill mountain bike, ski areas that are mountain bike centers in the summer. So that's my plan.
There you go. All right. So Chris has thought it through.
I'm not crazy here.
Yeah. So we're looking for investors. Write your check out to Chris Leblanc, accepting donations in the amount of $10,000 and up.
Yeah, and that's it. If it's not higher than, if it's not that, I don't really need it.
Yeah, Rejected. We're not open to all investors.
Yeah. Well, good luck to whomever that donates or bids for this, because it looks to be some sort of investment. So if you have the money, go ahead, I guess, and buy those snowmaking machines, because we all know with the weather that's going on that snow is very, very unpredictable here in the Northeast, let alone the whole freaking world right now. Has been for the past couple of years. So sort of last topic, this is more of a Catskills area. Sorry, Chris.
But I've listened to the podcast now enough that it's kind of fun for the extremely hyper regional information that I'm getting. So I'm a fan of this. This is okay.
It goes like we have some crazy stuff to talk about, and like the one thing that I talked about earlier, and Tad and I went back and forth, was that Woodstock project that was going on. The resort was just that it's got out of control. I got to update that, by the way, Ted. There's a lot of drama going on. Drama's good for podcast.
I guess so. Yeah, it makes us feel better. I don't think it gets us any more listeners. I don't think people tune in to find out what's going on with development in Woodstock, but I'm going to think that way because it makes me feel bigger.
I heard the Florida people are really into it.
Yeah. We have 2.3 listeners now down in Florida.
So soon to be, there's been a proposal for a Sullivan County waste to energy incinerator. So Sullivan County, of course, is the southern Catskills. We're talking about like Monroe or Monticello, Liberty, stuff like that area. So environmentalists are bristling at suggesting that Sullivan County could dispose of its garbage with a trash to fuel plant, a measure put forth to a third-party plant decommissioned to the county to figure out how to get rid of its garbage, because it's already sending its garbage upstate to Seneca Meadows, which I drove by when I was going to see the full eclipse the one time, and it was just absolutely insane to see a mountain that's like 500 feet tall. And I was like, what the hell is that? And then you smell it and you're like, oh shit. So you got to research it. And it's the Seneca Meadows landfill where all waste basically in New York goes to. And look it up. It's absolutely insane because it's so much. And it's right by the freaking Finger Lakes. I don't understand that.
Well, but you know why it's where it is? Because if you were to compile all of the people that live in a 5, 10, 20-mile radius of Seneca Meadows, it would just be a small fraction of the people that live downstate.
True.
Right? So the local opposition in and near Seneca Meadows is a fraction of the opposition you would get downstate. So
true.
The politics of it are truck the garbage upstate because there's less local opposition to taking the garbage. Hence, it's not all that surprising. Sullivan County is going to try to do a incinerator plant to process really not its garbage in the county of Sullivan. I mean, after all, how much garbage is really generated in the county of Sullivan versus downstate? They're just going to take in, the garbage that would otherwise go upstate to Seneca. So that's probably one of the big driving forces behind it. But Chris might know better than I of are you aware of any of these incinerator to fuel trash plants in the country that actually work?
I'm not aware. I'm so sorry. This is
I think it's a failing concept. I think it's a failing concept myself.
Yeah. I mean, it said that Sullivan County spends about $10 million a year to haul their garbage up to Seneca Meadows, which is a pretty decent drive. From me, going up to Seneca Meadows, up to Geneva area is around 2.5 hours. So add another hour and a half. So that's almost 4 hours to 5 hours to get up there.
Yeah.
Like shit. Like that's a long haul, especially for a truck that's hauling up 50,000 tons of trash last year. Well, that was in 2010. So they need to. Oh wait, so let me go over stats. 2010, they transported about 50,000 tons. Last year was 100,000 tons, and they project it's decreasing a little bit, but it's a full time 78,000 tons to go up and down to Seneca Meadows plant.
So from Sullivan County, which translates, Chris, to about $192,000 a week. And if we were the county manager for the county of Sullivan, how would we cut that cost in half? By building an incinerator, or what could we do? What would you tell your high school students to do?
In that scenario?
Yeah. Begins with the letter R. Let's hear it.
Reduce the amount of trash?
Yeah, reduce, recycle, and reuse. There we go. We got a winner. We got a winner.
Ding, 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 ding.
I feel like I was almost born at the end of that PSA, so I'm glad to get in here.
There you go. See?
Yeah. I mean, it's simple stuff. My wife and I reduce, reuse, and recycle. You know, she tries to buy as least amount of plastic as we can. Stuff like that. I mean, I know part of Sullivan County, the southern part of Sullivan County, doesn't really give a shit about anything, and they just throw whatever they want in the trash, which is absolutely insane. And I'm sorry for, you know, targeting people down there, but I know part of that, you know, the area is just pretty sad. And luckily Chris didn't have to run through there or fucking sprint through there. Let me just say, run through there, sprint. Fucking 9 days. Jesus.
I moseyed. We'll talk.
Mosey.
It was a mosey.
We'll talk. Yeah. We'll mosey onto that part of the story.
Yeah. So a lot of environmental groups are going against this. Catskill Mountain Keeper was talking about this global alliance for incinerator alternatives. And as Tad said, this doesn't really work that well. And it hasn't been done that much in America as well as the world, unless, you know, it goes up for a year and then just shuts down instantly. So whatever. Let's. I'll keep an update. I will post the plan that is on there, which is 450 pages. I skimmed over that, and it was really interesting to skim over the first. It was probably the first 8 pages is what I really looked at, and then everything else was just a bunch of BS, showing like stats of what an incinerator can do and stuff like that. But everything else was the first 8 pages was the most important. Tad, did you look at that?
I wouldn't admit it if I did. So no, I didn't look at it. I heard the report is basically a bunch of garbage.
Dum, 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 yeah. All right. Yeah. So look into that. So recent search and rescue news. So in the town of Cairo, Greene County Wilderness Rescue on October 5th, which from now is 3 days ago, which was Saturday. Greene County requested forest ranger assistance with an injured hiker at the Stork's Nest Trail in the Wyndham Blackhead Range Wilderness. 49-year-old from Earlton had head and arm injuries. Rangers Fox and Franch reached the subject, assessed her injuries, and carried her to the trailhead. The subject was transported by ambulance to the hospital. Resources were cleared at 5:49 p.m. So Stork's Nest had, what could you think happened up there with head and arm? I'm guessing a rock slip.
Rock slipper this time of year. You know, the mountain lions over there are pretty restless. The hiker might have had a conflict to bump into with one of the mountain lions. It's hard to say, but that would explain the head trauma if it was a mountain lion. That's my take on it. That's my take.
It's the most likely scenario.
It does. It's very plausible.
It just makes sense.
Yeah, but Chris actually has to deal with mountain lions down there. He has more of a presence than we do.
I've seen one mountain lion in all my hiking.
It's had to be on the long path, correct? Yep. The end of story.
It was at the end of a long day on the long path.
That's it.
Yeah, I heard it was at the gate at the George Washington Bridge.
You don't want to trust someone that talks about doing a really long hike about what they saw, because usually they hallucinated it.
Yeah.
So what you just said, like, it's very plausible I did see one on the long path, and it might have walked with me on trail, but that's not the one I recall.
Yeah. What Chris is alluding to is so true, man. Some days in the afternoon on a hike, I swear every black object ahead of me is a bear.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's a bear. It's another bear.
Chris, where were you encountered with a mountain lion? Where did you see that?
New Mexico on the CDT.
Oh yeah,
northern New Mexico. I I assume they did it in a legal way, but it was only because hunters had just killed it. And as long as that's the way that there was illegal, I'm okay with that as far as I'm concerned. But they treat it with their beagles, and then they were carrying the mountain lion back to its house. To the
wow, no shit.
Yeah, I've never seen and it was out of nowhere. Like I just hear a whole bunch of dogs barking in the woods, and I'm wondering what is happening up here. And next thing I know, like carrying a mountain lion in their hands, it's not what you expect to see in the middle of New Mexico.
So, Chris, what part of your day was that? Was that in the early morning, midday, late day? How deep into the hike were you?
Yeah, no, that was definitely, it was early morning. I will say I was pretty dehydrated, but it happened. I swear of this, it happened.
Okay. We're not going to fact check you on that. No fact checking.
So, Tad, I'm completely drawing a blank on the Stork's Nest Trail. Why is that? I know that name, but I cannot place it. Why? I'm looking on the maps. I know it.
Stork Nest Road.
Is that the Dutcher Notch Road?
Yeah.
That's Dutcher's Notch, right?
Yeah.
So they I knew they were like, I'm like, that's Dutcher's Notch. Stork Nest Road. Okay.
It's a great trail or road. I mean, it's
but it's Dutcher's Knot. It's not Stork Nest Trail.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. All right. And you went by there, Chris. That's actually probably where you might have gotten water.
I mean, you'll find out that I want to hold the title for the least knowledgeable of the Catskills person that's been on your podcast so far. So I apologize to anyone that's more knowledgeable, which would be everyone that listens to this, including the two Florida people.
Right.
I like this guy.
2.3 Florida people. Yeah.
What?
We're very precise. Yeah. So the Stork Nest. So we've learned now that what some call the Stork Nest Trail is really the
Dutcher's Notch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good trail. All right. So, Chris, thank you for shooting the shit with us. That was fantastic. Glad you can jump in. I know you're 500-600 miles away, but
Yeah, it works out. I'm glad to talk about it. I've been really excited for this.
Yeah. So thank you to the monthly supporters, Darren White, Vicky Ferreira, Mike Sowatowski, Jim C., Betsy A., Denise, Vanessa, Joseph, Jim C., and Michael. Thank you guys very much for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. All right. And thank you to our sponsors. Capture your love story against breathtaking batrocks with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Molly specializes in adventure couple photography, and she'll immortalize your moments amidst the stunning landscapes of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and White Mountains. She'll craft timeless images that reflect your unique bond in nature's grandeur. Embark on an unforgettable photographic journey with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. Also, discover the wilderness with Trail Brown Project, a expert-led hiking and backpacking education programs offered unparalleled outdoors experiences. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned adventurer, join us to learn essential skills, explore stunning trails, and connect with nature. Start your journey today with Trail Brown Project and unlock the wonders of the great outdoors. So, coffees and mentions. We haven't gotten any coffees in a while, so if you want to buy us a coffee to support the podcast, that would be fantastic. It goes to the podcast, and then, whatever doesn't go to the podcast goes to a donation of a local organization. And, Tad, I remember putting together some tallies that mostly I have donated $1,400 to the Catskills organization in the last 2 years. So that's a lot. That's a pretty good amount for a podcast that is mediocre. Not beyond what's below mediocre.
So if you donated $1,400, if we divide that into the number of listeners that we have, that means we have some really, really, really rich listeners.
Well endowed.
Yeah, because that's like per listener. That's almost $2,000 per listener. If I did the math right.
Chris was an anonymous donor.
Excluding the 2.3 from Florida, it is about $2,000 per listener.
I'm saving all my money for that ski resort, so I'm sorry, guys, it didn't go to that. Yeah. Once I buy the ski resort, it will be all about preservation.
Yeah. Well, actually, while we're talking, Chris has been listing things on eBay to sell to raise money. So
his shoes that he did in a long path, his backpack. Everything. So, once again, mention the podcast on one of your hikes through social media, and we'll chat about the show. So, Jim C., who is a local supporter of the show, had a recently challenging 10-mile trail race in a beautiful place. Pretty gnarly track. Had Epic Digger right in the front line. He got up and ran the last 10 miles on the feet. Super fun race. 1,700 miles of elevation gain at Amy's race at the lake for Bolton's Landing up in the Adirondacks. Also, Who's Outdoors did the 6 with 7 Wonder people on Saturday. So if you don't know what the 6 is, it is, you can go either way. It is Friday, Balsam Cap, Lone Rocky Table, Peekamoose, and ending either the Moon Hall or Peekamoose Road. It's an absolute fantastic hike. It actually cuts a lot of stuff off of your list if you're trying to do the 3,500 club. Instead of just doing Lone and Rocky single or stuff like that, you can do so much. Round 12, 13 miles, Ted, around 5,000 feet of elevation gain.
So I'm just going to disagree with you because the traditional way is Moon Hall to Peekamoose Road or vice versa. But then you can approach it coming up the Fisherman's Path out of Denning to hit Friday. And then...
That's difficult, though.
Well, but it's another way to do it. And it could be a lot more fun doing it that way because there is more route finding at the present time going that way. Whereas the traditional way, the only thing it's missing is trail markers. I mean, the trail is pretty well built into the path. So, but it's still a lot of fun. It's a great hike. I've done it countless times in all conditions. And whether it's 10 miles, 12 or 14, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Chris, if you're not familiar, some of the Catskills hikes, the 3,500 hikes, have trailless peaks.
I'm looking at it right now. Well, at least the GPS lines and the elevation chart for it, and it does not look. It looks like an interesting hike. That's all I got to say. A lot of lines close together.
Yeah. So going up from Moon Hall to Friday is like you said, the topographic map is very close together. It's a brutal hike. I would say, that one part you faced going up Blackhead, like halfway up Blackhead, is kind of like what it is going all the way up Friday. It's 2,900 feet of gain and what is it, Ted? 2.6, 2.9 miles? It's one of the highest gains in the Catskills.
Yeah. I'm not a numbers guy, but look, if you're in shape to do the whole hike, that first climb is nothing, it's worthwhile, and kudos to those people that are in shape that can do the 6, and kudos to those people who are in shape that can do the 9, and kudos to those people who can get out and do one mountain that's challenging for them and they have fun doing it, hike your own hike. We don't all have to be Chris.
Yes, right.
You shouldn't be me. That's
jealous.
Well, we're interviewing your wife after this, and she'll confirm or deny that.
Yeah. So, congratulations to once again, Who's Outdoors for doing the 6. Awesome, challenging accomplishment, and it's very fun. He had a great day with a bunch of people, 7 people. So that's a hell of a trail group. A lot of conversations that you have with Chris. He did the whole freaking long path by himself, unsupported. Fuck, I can't. I'm sorry. I just got to keep going back to that. It's just
I talk to myself plenty, so it's okay.
People don't like hiking with you. Is that why you go solo?
It's hard to find someone that will hike with me. That's the hard part. You bring your friends out. It took me a long time for me to understand my wife did not think 20s was a good idea. But we went on at least 4 or 5 hikes where it was like, okay, 20 miles a day. And she, we only do 10s now. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm. That's impressive.
Yeah. And 10's a good distance. Even if there's not a lot of elevation gain, that's a lot of walking.
Well, these mountains in the Catskills, as I will say later, are very different than a 10-mile hike I'll do in North Carolina.
Okay. That's, I was going to say, if your wife participates in 10 miles, kudos to you, because it's pretty tough. All right, hold on one second. We're going to be drinking something in a second. Gotta pop this open. Ready?
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to wait for you guys.
No, not at all. This is my 5th, so sorry.
Okay, good.
Tad's going to do it too. What?
Yeah.
I've gotten Tad to drink. I am a bad influence.
You are. I'm going to have to stop hanging out with you on Tuesday nights.
So, Chris, what do you got, buddy?
I am drinking I don't know. It was on sale at Food Lion. Oh, fake news, New England IPA. That's what it's called. But it's from a Raleigh, NC brewery, so I don't know what it's called. Well, yeah, I have no clue. Gizmo, fake news, New England IPA. That's what we're drinking today.
So it was made in North Carolina, but it's called New England?
It's a New England IPA. So, I mean, it's an IPA. I don't know what that means per se.
Neither do I.
But I'm sure you guys have plenty of them.
I'll tag them in it and see what they come up with and see if they, because I remember one time one of my my interviews was tagged or had something and they responded back and I was like, holy shit, that's incredible. So go. Cool. Fake news. That sounds very political right there. That was a little fucked up.
I don't know.
So Chris, how is that New England IPA?
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah.
It tastes like most IPAs that if you put two in front of me and you gave me the Pepsi challenge of IPAs, I wouldn't know what's New England versus other regional. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Same. Tad, what about you?
So I am having a Murphy's imported stout. Yeah. Draft style. It's got that little nitrogen ball in it when you crack it open.
That just feels fancy.
Yeah, I mean, it feels upscale, high class. That's the kind of guy I am. I drink high end, legit imported stouts. It's pretty good. It's not as good as a Guinness, but it's better than a light beer. So I'll take it.
Good for you. Bad influence once again. Bad influence. I got Tad to drink.
And before we move on, let me just, because I made that comment about a light beer, guess how many calories are in this 14.9 ounce can of Murphy's imported stout?
160.
14.9 ounces. Chris?
420.
160 was my guess. Am I that wrong?
Chris is the closer one. It's 124 calories.
Oh man, I should have gone lower.
Go figure. Yeah. So you get like real beer flavor without all the calories. And again, it's brought to you by Murphy's Stout draft style.
We don't want that on the summit though. You want as much calories as you can get on a summit, right?
Yeah, but Stosh, look to your left, look to your right. We're not on summits tonight. Okay.
Well, then
damn, son.
Oh, now I know.
What I have. Oh, never mind. All right, I'm not going to chat about what I got because the calories are actually lower than that. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So Downeast hard cider. It is a Blackberry. It's actually phenomenal. So probably halfway through this, I'll go get another one. Cool. But I mean, we're talking about calories. This says there is only 180 calories. So that's actually ridiculous. So I'm not bringing this up to the summit. The hell?
Now you guys got me looking. What's happening over here?
Yeah. Now we've got Chris looking at his beer.
I don't know if it says it here. It must have 0. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Drink a couple.
Nice. There you go.
No calories, no flavor.
Yeah. So now that we've gone drink anything, previous hikes, Chris, what have you done in the past week or two since the long path that you want to chat about?
Unfortunately, nothing. I got teacher schedule and we were going to go out to the mountains 2 weeks ago. That was our trip and that didn't happen. It would be irresponsible to go out there now. So I'm going to do a Veterans Day hike with some teachers, but it looks like we're going to the coast to a weird trail called the Nusiak. That's my next planned hike.
No, weird. I mean, you're going to be out there. So, and introduced to this is kind of introducing people to nature. Like you said, a teacher's hike.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Always bring one person that never comes back. Let's just go with that. Every year someone comes and then they don't want to be there the subsequent year. So,
then they're complaining of the elevation gain of 200 feet. And then you're like, you son of a bitch. I just did, 50,000 feet of elevation gain of 372 miles. Shut up.
It's my students don't use the H word is what we call it in my classroom, because when they say hike in front of me, they know, in a joking way, it's going to be one-upped every time. So they shouldn't say that in my classroom.
Nice. Well, good. What do you teach, by the way? Sorry to
high school history,
nice.
civics and law and justice in my 2 classes, and I've been doing it for a while, and it lets me have the summers to do the things that are much more fun because it is a hard job 9 months out of the year.
Of course. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not a believer, but bless you for what you do because it's hard shit. I gotta admit. So awesome, Ted. What about you, buddy? What do you want to say? You want to say something about that? Sorry, Ted.
Oh, well, I just wonder if Chris's students appreciate the effort that goes into what he does, right?
Some do.
Yeah. Do they look at you and like say, "Wow, this guy's hardcore," or are they oblivious to?
What's
going on?
I'm a weirdo, and I'm only as weird as I am because of all the outdoors. So they know that it came from somewhere, but they don't truly. I mean, it's just a lot. I'm a weirdo. Let's just go with that.
All right. Well, we'll dive into that in a few minutes. So
yeah, right.
On Saturday, with the picture perfect weather, I set out to just stay on the trail the whole day and hiked from 214 over Plateau, Sugarloaf, Twin, and Indian Head to Prediger Road, and it was just fantastic conditions. Enough leaves had fallen overnight in the early morning that they just covered the trail where you went. So, there was no exposed dirt, but still a lot of leaves on the trees. Is it peak season in the Catskills? Maybe not. Maybe there's still some green trees at the lower elevations, but it was just a great day. There was a lot of people out hiking, and I just had a fantastic fun time. So
that Devil's Path, it's like you call it Devil's Path, but it's like a pleasing path. You get involved, yeah. You get involved, you get the views, you get sometimes mostly the people that appreciate hiking, instead of the crazies.
Well, so you say it's pleasing, and I think Chris might agree with this. The one thing about hiking these mountains is you can make it as pleasing or as unpleasurable as you want based upon how hard you go uphill.
True.
Okay. You can take it really easy going uphill, take breaks, and keep your heart rate down, or you can just put the hammer down. And I going up Sugarloaf, man, I had the hammer down. I put a big hurt on myself. I took a good break when I got to the top of Sugarloaf, and I dosed myself with a couple shots of caffeine and a lot of fluids, and I just got faster as the day went on. So was a good power hike. I really, just mentally into the level of exertion, given the temperature, the weather, the surface conditions, I flew. So it was a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah. And I was recently, we'll talk Sunday, I went up to Platic Hill Ski Resort to do something with my wife. We hiked up the Overlook Trail and just enjoyed the beautiful view of autumn and just the magical wonders that it had up to the northern parts of the Catskills. And it was just absolutely phenomenal day. Wind was blowing, leaves were falling. Just the views were, I don't know, beyond remarkable. The leaves are a little mustardy this year. They're not as crazy popping as I thought it would be, but it was just one of those phenomenal times. And then we went down to Margaretville, and Jessica did some shopping. And Ted, what did you say that we did instead of post-hike brews and bites? This was the greatest thing I've ever heard.
I think I called it post-hike credit card swipes. That's why you don't hike with your wife. Okay. Chris knows that, right? He stays away from these long hikes with his wife. So, but maybe,
I begged her to come out.
Yeah.
She would, if she came out as far as I want her, if she came on the long path with me, we would be swiping the card. Let's just go with that.
Afterwards. Yeah. So post hike credit card swipes. Hopefully it won't be a new segment on the show, because I don't want to have to try to outdo anyone shopping after the hike.
Yeah. We went down to there, and she went into a like a plant shop. That was really cool. Down in Margaretville. I forgot it was like Soiled Underground or something like that. Very cool.
Well, I think we heard about that when we had the woman from the Catskill Watershed Corporation. I think she talked about that business being one of the businesses that the CWC gave grant money to.
Oh, Sacred Soil. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. We bought a cactus from there. It's probably going to die anyway. So I was like, whatever.
But who buys a cactus in Margaretville? Right.
It's pretty cool. It was freaking cool. I got to admit, it was pretty neat. And then afterward, I was just like, well, I might need my hiking. I got to admit, my hiking boots are getting out of control. Like, they are feeling like slippers now. Not in terms of tread, but like when I put them on, I'm just like, these are a little bit too worn in.
So are they all leather boots?
No, they were, they're not leather. What's one below leather?
Corduroy.
I wouldn't
corduroy.
Yeah, so are they all natural, like a non-man-made?
No, this is suede. Sorry.
Okay.
They're suede. So, I mean, they're just getting a little on things. So we went up to Foothills shoes. This was just right in Margaretville, and I was looking at stuff. I was looking at Danners, and I might get those there. But I have Merrells right now, and they feel so good. And it just I can't.
You have a wider foot, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. So a Merrell would be a good boot for you because they come in the wider sizes. I use, if you can fit into them, I use La Sportivas. Yeah. The grip and traction is off the chart. And I have the La Sportiva approach shoe and the La Sportiva mid-height boot. And
for winter?
The mid-height ones are the ones I take on the more burly bushwhacks. The shoe I take everywhere, whether it's a bushwhack or trail hike. And I will tell you, I have literally beat the crap out of those shoes. And at the end of every year, like this time of the hiking year, I say to myself, it's time to retire them and buy another pair. And so I've said that for the last 3 years in a row. But I squeeze another year out of them because they still have good traction. They're not torn up. They're not out of shape. They're indestructible. And some of the La Sportiva shoes, not this pair, but some of them, actually, you send them back to the company. They resole them for you. So you talk about reusing. Reusing. Yeah, they're totally into it. They make great products. So that's my endorsement for La Sportiva.
Tag them in it.
You need to have a thin foot.
That's not me then.
Yeah, you can't have duck feet, is what I'm saying.
Chris, what's your go-to?
I'm a wide foot guy, so I hike in ultras.
And ultras?
Yeah, definitely wearing ultras all the time.
Okay, I'm curious because there are so many products out there. He said hookahs. I call them hookahs. I just like saying that. They're coming out with a boot now and with hiking shoes. Everybody's converging into hiking shoes and running shoes and stuff like that. Chris is a trail runner, so he has ultras. They're all over the place, man. Everybody, and it's whatever feels good for you. And you know what? I don't know what the hell feels good to me until I use them on the trail, and then they suck, and then I can't return them.
Definitely. Well, and that's why when you buy shoes, you buy them local because you can, wear them, walk around in them in the store. One time I got a warranty replacement from Solomon, and the pair they sent me, the sole or something on it was twisted, so they never really sat or fit well on my foot, and I just kept getting like this irritation when I wore them. And I will give La Sportiva or Solomon credit that I sent them an email complaining about them. They sent me another pair, no questions asked. Yeah. So they're a big company and they stand behind their products. Although I did find that I was going through a pair of their boots every year They would just fall apart on me.
Oh, wow.
But they were really good replacing them. But they didn't have the grip that the La Sportivas have. I swear, those La Sportivas, you'll see me someday climbing up the Empire State Building wearing them, just going totally vertical.
Freaking Spider-Man.
Chris will be standing back and saying, yeah, I hung one night with that guy.
I'll be on my little building climbing cup podcast.
Yeah, right. See, I'm working up to that.
Did you use your single shoe through the whole climb of the?
Yeah, that's one weird thing about the unsupported manner is, you would have had to carry another shoe. I know I saw some dude went for an 800-mile Arizona trail unsupported, and so on the back he had a new pair of shoes. Because to think, if you're running 800 miles in trail runners, they're definitely going to break. And imagine carrying another pair of shoes for 400 miles only to use them then. Like that's a tough grind.
And he couldn't do like a mail drop with another pair of shoes.
Unsupported.
Right? From
Unsupported,
from the start to the finish, there's no resupply.
I know Anish Heather Anderson, she set the female FKT, and so she ended up doing it in like 20 some odd days. But like, just imagine 20 some odd days of food on your back to start a trail.
So can you do it? So here, I'm going to, and this is a serious question, which I rarely ask. Okay. But if you're doing 800 miles unsupported and there's no resupplying, getting any extra provisions, whether buying them or drop boxes or whatever, can you along the way kill something and eat it?
I love the distinction of unsupported because there's so many gray areas, but the answer to that would absolutely be no, right?
Wow.
Like if it is some sort of support, whether you think if you picked up a berry, that counts as support.
Okay.
Wow.
What about a dog? What if you bring your dog with you?
If your dog hikes the whole time? Oh.
Yeah. Could you eat? Is this a sensitive subject, Chris?
No, I think that I'm going to go with like legally. Legally,
we're not talking legally. You are a law professor, a law teacher, right?
I always teach law and justice, and so I do like to tell the kids, like, I'm a lawyer, but not really. So, as a not official lawyer, I think that would count as unsupported still, because like if you used a wheelie cart, that would be unsupported, and I just can only assume that. I mean, the dog carries itself, but you had it the whole time with you.
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that you eventually ate it, like, you didn't. Yeah. It's a strange distinction, but.
Yeah. Well, maybe if you had it on a leash, right, that would make it more part of the unsupported. Right. You're carrying it with you.
Stop back on track. Because, Jesus Christ, we're going way off track.
Who's outdoor, who hikes with the dog is
I find the
raging right now. Yeah,
I find the distinction of supported and unsupported to be entirely fascinating. And also, I did 700 miles with my dog this summer, so I'm all about dog hikes too. Or 400? They did 400.
Oh my God! Wow, unbelievable. So I haven't even talked about my second hike. So today I did Twin Mountain from Prior Road, and it was absolutely fantastic. I actually ran into the Tahawas. How do you say that, Ted? Do you know?
Not a clue.
They said something. I was like Tahawas, and I think it's Tahawas trail crew who was recreating almost the whole trail up to where you start elevation gain and Prior Road up Pico up Jimmy Dolan Notch, and it's absolutely phenomenal. You can fly through that area, and it's just what it used to be was just mud, rolling rocks where you roll your ankle. It's freaking time, but today. Was one of the most perfect days that I've ever had in the Catskills, of where there was just a nice steady flow of wind. The sun was popping back and forth. The clouds were there. It got up. I only went to the southern twin, the eastern twin peak, just to get the view. And I sat up there for at least an hour, just soaking in the views, looking in every direction, just flabbergasted by anything and everything. Met two people on the trail, and I love when I can, when I'm 30 feet behind or ahead of the person up on the trail and I could smell their cologne. I'm just like, they came from New York City.
So you're that guy. Chris's talk about unsupported. Chris, I just saw a resupply there. Did I catch that?
I got to do that soon.
Yeah, there's a beer resupply. You see? Now I am
right
supported
there.
though.
Yeah.
That's
So
the
this
key.
is you're not doing the fastest known podcast tonight.
Yeah, this is a supported record I'm going for on the podcast.
Good. All right.
Good.
So we've got that down on the record. He's on can number 2. Is this the faux Northeast IPA
Yes,
again?
it's once again we're on fake news. Whoop.
Ah,
There you go.
There. Awesome.
nice. Awesome. So yeah, Twin Mountain was phenomenal today. Once again, I would take the Jimmy Dolan notch up to the top. Absolutely phenomenal hike. Tahawa's trail, or the trail crew, has done an amazing amount of work that I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Now, like, to be honest, I don't trail run, but when I go down, I try to push myself a little bit further.
Gravity.
And I jog. And then I get a little bit too ahead of myself. I know it sounds weird, but I start kind of zoning out, and I'm just like, oh shit, I can't complete this next step. And I freaking put on the e-brake, and I'm like, all right, that was a little bit too much, but they've made it so you can fly down this trail.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful stepping stones. Wow, just the stuff. And I met with them. They had no clue about the podcast, and I don't, I was just like, yeah, I don't expect that. But I gave them one of my business cards, and they were pretty cool, and they were down to earth people that looked like they were hauling some 200-pound rocks to where it would make our trails even better. And
So
I definitely appreciate that.
When you say they were hauling them, are they moving them like in a wheelbarrow or some type of apparatus like that? Are they using cable,
and like rope
tripods
toes with like rope toes with their body.
Oh, really?
That's terrible.
Dragging them.
Yeah, terrible, right, Rick?
Yeah.
Like, it's like 2 of them would have the rope tow. One would have it, one was like a pulley system, and they would pull it back, and it was cool.
I didn't count, but that's the way I went out on Saturday at the end of my hike. And I'm going to tell you that they must have moved at least 50 to 100 stones like that. And when I say stones, these are massive.
So the width
rocks.
of probably like 3 to 4 feet.
Yeah, the width of the trail.
Yeah.
They just, it's so luxurious now coming in and out compared to what it used to be. But while we're on this topic, we're talking about trails, we're talking about the Devil's Path, we're talking about Twin. Let's toss in Sugarloaf. Why don't they have a trail, I should say, that loops in front of Twin or Sugarloaf, or Twin and Sugarloaf? Why can't you
go
hike
back
up
to Pridger?
No, goes on the the southern side, right? The opposite side that you hike up, right? I mean, I've bushwhacked over there and everything, but I've often thought you might get somebody who comes up from Prediger up the Jimmy Dolan Notch Trail. They don't want to climb either of those mountains. Why can't they just continue through the Notch, bang a right and head west and go in front of or to the south of Twin, continue on over to Sugarloaf, go in front of Sugarloaf again, and then go back out to Roaring Kill? Why can't they have a trail in front of those on the southern side? We talk about trail building. They're spending all this money on these big, luxurious stones out there. I think that would be a neat feature to do that.
Once again, it's all about money. And, Ted, I know I know I brought this stuff up before, but, it's the cost of new trails plus replacing like old trails, enhancing old trails. It's going to be a big discussion.
Well, and there's so much truth to that. And then there's equal truth to the well-documented fact that since COVID, the number of hikers in the Catskills is more than doubled.
It's beyond that. It's like 300%.
Yeah. But the budget for trail maintenance and trail work in the Catskills hasn't gone up proportionately. So Chris, our in-house teacher of law and justice, do you think I'm making a just and fair argument that if hiker traffic has gone up by 300%, the state of New York should spend 300% more in the Catskills?
I mean, I'm looking at where you say that the trail should be, and hey, if If
Just say
there's
fuck
the
yeah. Just say
need,
fuck yeah. Just say fuck yeah.
then
That makes sense.
absolutely. Always more trails.
Right? I mean, you have a balance of more trails, enhance the old trails, stuff like that. It's tough. It's tough to think about. And you look at what the Tahawas has done at Picoy Notch and how long or Jimmy Dolan Notch and how long it's taken. The volunteers, it stinks because you can't get enough volunteers as the Tahawas has. They had like 6 people today. And the volunteers, who knows what they can show up on a day, and you plan this months and months ahead of time. And that's some insane labor to haul 200-pound stones off a trail. How long? I don't even know how far they're hauling these things. So if I got paid to do it, I would do it.
Yeah, I always thought they used like a pulley apparatus or a ratchet come along or something to facilitate moving these. I didn't realize that it's like, going to summer football camp and you have these, offensive linemen, pushing and pulling those, dummies around. I thought were those guys that were doing this work, were they as big as like professional NFL football players?
Nope. They were small. They were smaller than me. They were like Chris's size, to be honest.
Wow. Oh, Chris.
I'm 400 pounds.
You want to take them outside?
On the audio broadcast. You guys can't tell, but 7'8", 400 pounds.
Yeah, he's been taking anabolic steroids since 6 months since birth, right? You've been on the Lance Armstrong pharmaceutical enhancement program,
and the train comes back.
Yeah. And he calls it unsupported.
We gotta get on to Chris's stuff. I gotta get on to hear his story. So the Catskill Lean-To Crew is doing some stuff this weekend, 10/12, 10/13, 10/14. Sign up on New Jersey Trail Conference page. I'll post that. If you want to do the John Robb Lean-To, they're going to be working on that. Awesome spot in the Catskills. Also, they're doing the Elm Ridge Lean-To workday on Friday, 10/18, 10/19, and 10/20. I will post a link in the show notes for that too as well. Also, if you can volunteer, do it. Anybody and everybody, 3500 Club Trail Crew, Catskill Mountains Club, Visitor Center, Jolly Rovers Trail Crew, Bramley Mountain. Definitely volunteer as much as you can. So once again, you know what? I don't want to do the weather because we're recording on a Tuesday and it's Friday, and last time we kind of screwed up and the weather was shitty on that day. But it still looks good. Friday, Saturday is supposed to be clear with minimal winds, a high of 55 on Friday and a low of 41. Maybe frost in the morning, but nothing too bad. Saturday, a high of 50, a low of 41 as well. Minimal winds, maybe 20 mile per hour gust. Sunday has a little cloudy with some clouds, a high of 57. And a low of 25 at the night during Sunday to evening. So it looks to be an awesome weekend to get out there. I don't know if it's going to be beyond. I have a feeling it's going to be way beyond peaked and the leaves might be off of the trees. But once again, take your time getting out there because the trails are going to be covered with leaves and it's going to be slippery. So, all right. So let's get on to the last set of sponsors and then we'll get on to Chris. Finally, Jesus.
Yeah.
So discover Camp Catskill in Tannersville, your ultimate hiking store. Find top quality gear, apparel, and accessories for all your outdoor adventures. Our expert staff is here to help every hiker from beginners to seasoned pros. We also carry a variety of unique skills, souvenirs, and gifts. Visit online at campcatskill.co or in the store to gear up for your next journey. Adventure starts at Camp Catskill. Also, if you want free stickers, stop here. So discover the beauty of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and Hudson Valley with Scenic Route Guiding. Our expert guides ensure a safe, unforgettable hiking experience tailored to your skill level. From breathtaking vistas to hidden gems, or if you're just peat bagging to just simple day hikes, we'll lead you to the best spots and back. Book your adventure today and explore nature's wonders with Scenic Route Guiding. Check them on all social media platforms. Also, if you mention the podcast, you can get 10% off. Use the code Mountain Lion. So also embark on a transformative journey with Another Summit. Another Summit is dedicated to serving veterans and first responders with free outdoor activities. Activities like walks in nature, paddling, hiking, and even backpacking. Join our supportive community to rejuvenate in nature's embrace. Experience camaraderie, adventure, and healing at no cost. Take your next step with Another Summit and to ascend to new heights with resilience and joy. Apply today on anothersummit.org.
If I may, did you skip the Catskill Mountain history?
I did.
Because I heard that you sometimes skip it, and in the episodes I listen to, and I've been reading The Power Broker by Robert Moses, and then I looked at the back just for the one point where he says Catskills.
Do it.
Was that intentional that you skipped it?
No. Do what you need. What I just skipped it because we're already an hour in. So, what do you have to say? Go ahead.
Yeah. This is the teacher in Chris coming out.
Ted, you're replaced.
Take the podium.
I'm so sorry. I just found this is the only mention of the Catskills in the entire 1,200 page Robert Moses biography, The Power Broker. And it says, by the end of the summer in 1928, the scattered little historic reservations that Moses had inherited had expanded into a system including 70 parks totaling more than 125,000 acres. And he used the $5 million bond issue to beat the lumbermen to the great untouched tracts of the Adirondacks and Catskills to build up the state forest preserve to 2,218 acres.
Wow. That was 1928. Yeah. So it was only 125,000 acres, and now it's 375,000 acres.
So sorry. I was like, I'm gonna bring Catskills histories too.
No, dude.
Since I'm
fantastic.
the least knowledgeable person, once again, I had to compensate.
Well, we're going to have to hand the reins of the podcast over to you, Chris, because you've definitely outgamed us on this, bringing up Robert Moses. And
I'll give you all the passwords and everything. We're done.
Yeah. So our work is done here. Come on, Stosh.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Take it easy, guys. So let's get on to the guests of the night.
Let's go.
So Chris Leblanc tonight is joining us, and he just recently did the fastest known time, unsupported, of the long path. Absolutely insane. 9 days, 35 minutes, with a sleeping time of I don't know how long with the George Washington Bridge.
I got more sleep than I was supposed to get. Let's just start with that. That's
absolutely insane. Yeah, that's basically, I mean, we should just leave it right there. 9 days, 35 minutes, fastest known time. Unsupported. That's the one thing that just blows my mind is unsupported.
Yeah, so let's do the unsupported. Okay.
One sec. We'll talk about Chris's background, and then we'll go into the unsupported stuff.
I got you. Okay.
Very cool. Okay, yeah, my background, I don't know. I've been hiking since kind of 2014. You guys definitely hike more than me, though. Let me just throw that one out there, because I was thinking this year, I've only gone on like 8 hikes. It just so happens that 3 of those were all over 300 miles, So I don't go on that many hikes. I just do go very hard when I do go out, whenever that is. So I started in 2014, did the AT, 2015 did the PCT, putzed around with the MST for 4 different summers.
What's the MST?
Mountain to Sea Trail in North Carolina.
Wow.
Trying to set the FKT when I was a big dummy and didn't really understand FKTs because I was just so young. And so I injured myself 4 times, every single time. And then CDT 2019, I did the northern half. CDT 2021, I did the southern half. CDT 20 or MST, I finally finished in 2022. And then Ice Age Trail has been the last 2 summers, finished those. And I don't know. I don't know where I'll go next.
I don't know. I've only, how many, so 2014, how many, have you calculated how many miles you have done since 2014?
No,
take a guess.
I mean, I just want to do 10,000 and I don't know if I'm there. I'm real close. But once you do 10,000, it feels like you've gone past a point of no return, even
Ted,
though
I'm fucking hanging up everything. He's just like, you've hiked more than me. 10,000 miles.
I only did 8 though. I heard you guys. You guys went out last weekend.
Yeah. So of the 10,000 or 8,000 that you've done so far, Chris, how many has been in the dark?
I hate night hiking, so
Oh,
in a
really?
mount, but I'm
Oh,
always alone. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of night hiking. I hike when I have to in the dark, but I mean, I'm more of a walk all day, and when it goes down, I should probably go down too.
hmm
But when you're setting a record, you don't have that pleasantry, so yeah, it is what it is.
You've done the Triple Crown. What is your favorite? I've known a bunch of people, and it's very controversial.
Oh, it's definitely the CDT. It was the
Yeah.
only time it ever felt like it was dangerous or actually more than just walking. AT is walking, PCT walking, but CDT, they were, walking across snow-covered sides of mountains, and I was like, "Ooh, this is dangerous!" And getting to choose your own path all over the place, so that you could go over some mountain instead of around it, like just so many just fun choices that you didn't get on the other two. And yeah, that's what I really like about hiking is just getting to have a say instead of following a line.
Um. So with the CDT, I know a lot of people choose that because it's more secluded. I would say than the PCT and the AT.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say that it's definitely has its times of where you're just like, damn, I'm all alone compared to the AT of where you're like, I'm with a hiking family of 15 people.
Yeah, and I mean it depends on when I started the PCT when I went northbound in June in New Mexico, and no one's hiking northbound in June in New Mexico because I waited till school had ended, and so it was June 14th in New Mexico, and it was not cool, and I was
hmm
definitely alone. But then randomly on day 3, I was walking under a bridge. Some guy said, "Hey, are you hiking the CDT?" And that's how I met Oscar. So there were 2 of us that started in mid June in 2022.
Nice. Cool, man.
And those three, you didn't set out to do a record, no fastest, no time.
No, I was just trying to make miles, but this is more of a recent thing in the last 2 years where I've really started leaning more into pushing myself in the mountains and actually having the know-how of how to do it.
And how did it come about mentally that you went from just walking the AT, doing these long hikes to now you want to start doing fastest known times?
For me, I think, and once I do want to disclose that I'm definitely not a great FKTer. There's way better people that are doing FKTs and way more competitive. But for me, when it comes to FKTs, the reason why I started was because I've always kind of pushed myself in the mountains. And it right now for me is the hardest thing that I think I'm capable of doing. And that's why I wanted to do the AT in the first place, was I thought it was the hardest thing that I could possibly do. And then I did it and I was like, well, what's harder than that? So, post CDT, I did 100-miler. That was tough. And I will say these FKTs are, I think, harder than 100-milers to sustain that just level of pressure over 9 days or 7 days or 6 days, depending on what one you're doing. And I'm thinking about future FKTs that would be very difficult, but who knows?
So what was your first FKT attempt?
Well, my first one was the MST, which was 1,200, and I just was not, it would have been supported or self-supported. So, you can pick up anything you want in any gas station. But that was in 2016, and how I hurt myself was on the very first day. They always say elevate your legs. So then I put my legs up on a rock. I didn't put anything under my knee, stretched my knee out, and then for like 4 or 5 years, it wasn't the same. And I finally really recovered from that because I've been doing a lot more strength training. But yeah, that was my first FKT attempt, and then the first one that actually went well and I succeeded, that matters any, was the Ben McKay Trail in North Carolina and Georgia and. North Carolina and Georgia, 290 miles from Springer Mountain at the end of the AT all the way to the top of the Smokies.
Wow.
And that was 7 days and like 6 hours.
Wow.
And that was unsupported?
Yeah, I like the idea of unsupported just because it's, I'm not a runner, so I can't do one of those supported ones really that well. I definitely can't do a self-supported one that great, but I'd probably do it better than some runners. But I'm a pretty okay hiker, I'd say. And so it feels like the ones that I set out to do and the ones that I've been trying to do are ones that I think are long enough that they kind of benefit a backpacker, and I have some sort of interest in. And if there's a confluence in those two rivers, well, then that's why I hike the FKTs that I've done. And so I got currently the Ben McKay Trail unsupported, 6 days and some odd hours, or maybe 7 days. I can't remember anymore. South Beyond 6,000, which is all the 6,000 foot peaks in North Carolina combined together in a line. And that was like 250. And oh, there you go. 6 days and 3 hours.
I shared it. I have your page pulled up.
I appreciate it. And then, of course, the long path, which is the most recent one, and pretty fun. I'm pretty excited to have that. And the last two were done during my spring break because, once again, I'm a teacher. I showed up to class the day after I did the Ben McKay, having only slept like a couple hours after it. And I just had a kind of rambling lecture that day because I was still coming down.
Wow.
So it seems like with your attempts and records that you are looking more towards, like you said, the hiker's perspective instead of the runner's perspective, of where you can be running and someone supports you and gives you a pizza, where you would be like, screw this, I got to cook my own meal and stuff. That's incredible. I find that fascinating.
I saw Carl Metzler when I was on the AT back in 2014 trying to set the Appalachian Trail FKT. And I remember, like, I was walking past his car, and then this is the first time I ever heard of FKTs. I was walking past his car, and they offered me a Red Bull because they were sponsored by Red Bull. I took a Red Bull, I slammed it, and then I started hiking uphill, and then I was like, man, that guy is following me uphill. And he didn't even pass me on the uphill. But the moment it became flat, like, he was gone. And I remember thinking, that man's a NASCAR, that is what a supported hiker is. You're a NASCAR, and then you come in for your pit stop, and then you NASCAR away. And I'm honestly just not that athletic.
Wow. That is a great description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize there was these different categories of efforts: the supported, the self-supported, and then the unsupported.
Mm-hmm. Those are the three.
And you prefer the completely unsupported.
It's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. So when you set off to do a fastest known time, an FKT, everything that you're going to consume, other than water, I guess, you have with you.
Yes.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
It's definitely. I mean, one weird kind of caveat to the FKT website, which they added recently, was you can charge your phone and use electrical plugs, which is something that you also have to think about when you're doing a 9-day long FKT. But beyond that, like, that is all of the support that you can have. Like, you can have a public faucet, and you can, I assume, use a public restroom, and also you can charge at outlets. If you didn't have like to pay to charge it, I don't know why you would. But besides that, you're 100% on your own.
That brings a whole nother perspective to fastest known times. I don't know if you've listened to a bunch of podcasts that we've had on here. We've had fastest known time for Devil's Path.
I've listened to every FKT one. That's what I wanted to hear.
So Joshua Reed, and he's an insane guy. I follow him on Facebook and I see his stuff. I support that guy all the time. He is crazy. He did the Devil's Path, which was fucking 3 hours, 43 minutes. What an insane.
I know. You should have seen me. I was just hiking up it slowly, making my time because
but to be supported and unsupported with 372 miles, that unsupported, blows my freaking mind.
It's a heavy pack. Let's just say that. I mean, I'll say more, but that's a heavy pack.
So, Chris, tell us, what did you learn on the prior FKT attempts that you bundled into your effort on the long path?
I did fail on FKT earlier in the summer. My summer was supposed to be FKT at the start, so I went to the New England Trail. It's a national scenic trail. It seemed kind of interesting. Never heard of it before 6 days before I hiked it, but I was like, let's just go in on that on a plan. So I tried to do a 190-mile New England Trail in 3 days and 12 hours. That was the previous one. And at the morning of day 4 at 3 a.m. on the side of a ditch, I abandoned that plan because it was 96 on day 3, and it's New England in June, early June. It should not be 96. It was 96 on day 3. It was 96 on day 4. What did I learn? There's so many little things, but the one thing that I tried to do this trail that was different than the previous trails is I tried to go no cook, which is actually a thing that I've absolutely never done on any trail in 10,000 mile hiking. Like no cook, save some time I've always cold soaked my food before cooking it so that I can save fuel, which is the way that I can carry a much smaller fuel canister. But on this trip, I went straight up no cook. And as I'll say, on day 6, 7, and 8, I made a fire and decided to cook.
So what no cook, what does that mean?
You just, cold soak your food and you don't use a flame. And your food should rehydrate based on water being exposed to it over the course of the day. So around 3 p.m., I'll usually dump my food into my pot. Screw the lid. I use a Vargo bot. It's honestly one of my favorite pieces of gear, period. Vargo bot 700, the
Vargo
1 liter
bot?
one. Yeah, the 1 liter one looks a little strange. It's too tall. It's awkward. But the 700 liter one, it's a normal size. It is a metal titanium canister that screws like a bottle, but also you can cook it on a flame like a pot. And so, on this trail, I thought I was going to go no cook, but I still brought the bot just in case. I failed at that. And imagine hiking a 40 some odd mile day and then being like, I'm going to make a fire so I can cook warm food. That's what I did the night of day 6. No, the night of day 5, the morning of day 6, the night of day 6, and that was it. Yeah. Oh, wow. No, I also did it on day 5 too.
So with the long path, what made you go after the New York State long path? Like what, you're down in North Carolina. What made you look up here and be like, hey, let me go after this?
I mean, it's just, you have to have something that calls to you. That's like why I hike the trails that I hike. And so, the Ice Age Trail, my brother lives in Wisconsin. I thought it was very interesting. That's why I spent the first half of my summer doing the Ice Age Trail. But like the long path, honestly, it's the first other, maybe the PCT, but it might be the third other trail I ever heard about. I was on the AT in 2014 and, almost 10 years to the day that I would have passed it hiking southbound on the AT. I remember passing it and seeing, look, it's only 50 some odd miles all the way to Manhattan. And it really captured my imagination. And honestly, I have never looked at a map of it until maybe 2 or 3 weeks before I planned to go out there. But it really captured my imagination. And when I thought about what I wanted to do at the end of the summer, I figured, let's go and do the long path, this very interesting idea of seeing as much of the state as I can, as fast as I can. And so I saw, man, I haven't seen New York now.
Did you do any physical training for this effort?
In a sense, I got a stair stepper in my garage. And so I do about an hour of stair stepping, 30 minutes of stair stepping every night. So I've been doing that since November. But then on the weekends, you do a little bit more. So maybe, if only those counted as hikes. I do a lot of fake walking uphill until eternity.
Yeah.
But and then at the start of the summer, like the attempts and the other things I did were, training for the long path, because the long path is the one I really wanted. The New England Trail, like I said, 6 days before I decided to do the New England Trail, and it was only a 4-day trip, so it was just like one long resupply. Carry a lot of food, and it's not that bad. Then I did 400 miles with the dogs, and that was, training too, 20 miles a day, which didn't really get me ready, but hey, at least you're staying in shape, because 3 weeks to the day after I finished the 400 miles of the Ice Age Trail that I had left, and completely finished it in totality because I finished the other half last year. I was in New York, walking forward.
Wow. So Unsupported, this takes a lot of pre-planning, I would presume. But you said only like 3 to 4 weeks. Are you insane?
I don't think it's that much plan. What's harder is Supported, honestly. Think about it. Because Unsupported, the only thing you have to plan is what you have at the start. And then once you have it at the start, it's all in your own hands, right? Like that's what I honestly like about Unsupported is that you're 100% reliant on you. And so, day 5, after getting stuck in the rain all day, I was shivering cold and I wanted to have hot food. The only thing I could do was make a fire for myself so that I could have hot food. Like it's 100% on you. Supported, you have someone meet you at a road, you have to figure that out. All of those other difficult things you have to figure out yourself. But Unsupported, all you have to do is kind of figure out how many days you need.
I got to stop him right here, Stosh. I mean, seriously, calling somebody to meet you roadside with like a pizza after going 5 days without a hot meal. You can like DoorDash or anything else. You're in New York State, Chris. Okay, this is not like the Ice Age Trail where I don't think they even have cell phones or cell service up there.
Bars but everywhere.
Down here, you could get somebody to deliver you a mixed cocktail, sushi, and you name it, trailside in New York State if you wanted it. But I can't. I mean, Stosh, can you get your arms around? You're walking all day. Around 3:00, you pour some water into a tin cup, screw on the lid. Your food's back there shaking up. And then what does this stuff taste like that you're eating?
Oh, it's great. Yeah. I mean, you just got to lean into everything. And so what do you like to eat? You know what I love? Jambalaya. And so I dehydrate. All I do, and this is actually my way of measuring it, so it's perfect. And this is something I thought about after years of doing it. And so I'm very proud of this plan. How much jambalaya will fit in your pot? When it's wet, you scoop it out of the jambalaya thing, and then you put it on the dehydrator tray. And one dehydrator tray was a full scoop of jambalaya. And so when you dehydrate it, put it in little vacuum bags, when it rehydrates, it will fill the entirety of your jar. And that's how I have as much jambalaya as possible. And I love jambalaya.
Wow. So you dehydrate the food that you bring with you on the trip.
So yeah, that really is the most preparation I have to do. But all it is every single time is jambalaya. So I just made one really big jambalaya. My wife had dinner. I had dinner. I had leftovers the next day. And then I dehydrated seven plates of it. And then I was ready for the FKT.
Okay. Wow. So before we move on, what's jambalaya? I don't even know.
You don't know jambalaya?
No, why do you know that? Jesus Christ.
Stash, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know what jambalaya is.
What is it? Yeah. Is it like something with meat? No meat?
Rice, meat?
Rice, meat, Cajun seasoning, tomato-based usually.
A lot of protein.
And maybe there's someone in Louisiana that's like, that is not the description at all.
Right.
But, that's as good as it gets. Now, the one part about backpacking jambalaya is you got to have low fat content. So you can't have the fun. I love sausage. You can't put sausage in there. I'm using imitation crab, right? Almost no fat. I'm using ham, which weirdly, like some ham, just 0 fat. And I don't get it. It doesn't rehydrate well. And then I'm also Backpacker Pantry. They had a super great sale on their sausage. And so I'm holding up a tin of just, Backpacker Mountain House things that I bought. And I bought like 3 tins of just sausage so that I could just throw it in the jambalaya.
Wow. So for your 9 days on the long path, how much of your weight, your pack weight, day 1 is food?
Yeah. So it was 9 pounds as my base. And then 31 pounds was my pack when I started. So there you go.
So
actually, it was probably a little heavier because I had a sandwich from Katz that I brought, and then the pickles that came with it too. And so I probably had like 32 pounds when I started the trail.
Wow, not bad. That's not bad. I mean,
it's not. Yeah.
Before we move on to the next topic, bag of chips. I heard you on another podcast. You talked about something you do with like chips, snacks, consolidating them. Tell us about that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely. Why would you just have one bag of chips? And honestly, chips take up so much room that you got to squish them down anyways. A lot of hikers squish them down. I remember the very first time, and this is not chips, but the very first time I ever went to a grocery store on the AT after I'd really been hiking for a while, and I took a loaf of bread and just like accordioned it together. And then the cashier looked at me like I was crazy, and she just doesn't understand hiking. Just like the students. Sometimes people don't get it. And so, you take whatever chips you're feeling that day in the store, throw 3 together, will usually fit in a large bag, crunch them down, and then who knows what you're eating, but it's going to be good because they're chips that you wanted.
Right. Wow.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's high calorie and
I love
very
chips.
salty and tasty.
Yeah.
But they're all mashed up.
Speaking of unsupported, on South Beyond 6000, my chip bag popped on a tree because, they're thin, flimsy, like whatever chip bags are made out of. And so I had to put it in my only extra bag that I was like, why did I even bring this? And it was a Cuban fiber bag. And it feels really silly to have like a Cuban fiber bag that's sole purpose is to contain a bag of chips. And if I didn't have a trail name, UL Chips, I think, is a pretty good trail name. Ultralight Chips.
Nice. So when you started this and stuff like that, let's go over like the kind of days that you had. So like you started off days like 1, 2. When did you reach the Catskills? Like day 2, right?
It was, I don't know if the escarpment counts. So that would have been, escarpment counts. So that would be day 3 a.m. really early.
All right, let's go back to day 1 and 2. What was your experience on day 1 and 2?
I mean, it was kind of what I expected the trail to be. I mean, I had a really tough time in the beginning. Number one, because I use a trail running backpack kind of, right? So it's called a Palante Joey, great pack. One of the people that is a really good unsupported hiker, the String Bean, used one on the long path, which was 210 in 4 days. And I was like, well, if he's going to use it, I'm going to use it. Trying to do my trips. And so I use a Palante Joey, which means that all the weight is in your chest and shoulders. And so day 1 and 2, my left shoulder is really starting to hurt because it's just so heavy. And then also I am so tired at the start of the trail, which is not how you want to start an FKT, but I rode a Amtrak from Raleigh all the way up to Albany. And I didn't sleep a second the entirety of the time. At 12 a.m., I'm sitting outside, or maybe at 1 a.m., I'm sitting outside the Albany bus station trying to get a ride. All the Ubers are canceling. And so I end up getting a ride up by some taxi guy who charges me too much, but I need to get to the trail so I can sleep. And so I slept 2 hours before I started this attempt. And that's not what you want to do, because for 2 days, I was just battling sleep. And honestly, it would have been faster if I hadn't have been battling sleep. But those first 2 days for sure. And even the third day, I took a nap for an hour because it was just killing me.
Wow. And then, I've heard a lot about the beginning of the hikes going south to or north to south has a lot of difficulty with trail finding. Did you find that any?
Oh. Yeah, I heard Kim talk about it when she was on y'all's podcast. I think that they had recently, because I had Kim's GPS track pulled up on my watch so that I could be aware of where I needed to be. Because honestly, it's much easier. The first time I did an FKT in 2017, it was much harder to know when I was on track and whatnot. Now it's like a dummy. You're just following a line. If you're ever curious, you can put it on your watch, you can put it on your phone. It's so much easier. But I'm following her track, and I'm looking at her track. And then one point, the aqua blazes 100% go into the trees. Her track continues on the road. And I'm like, they must have made this trail recently. And they sure did, because it was literally just blazes. And look, I'm not hating on the trail crew. I love trail crews. But it was very unfortunate that I knew previously it had been routed on the road. And now it was just going left and right, zigzagging through trees. With just blazes, they hadn't set any sort of trail on the ground yet. And so I was just walking 2 blazes. And unfortunately, at that point in time, I did not have the benefit of a GPS track to follow. But I mean, it was mostly flat. It was just very tiresome. And then she actually talked about this one point in day 2 where she had stinging nettles all over the place. And I knew that exact moment, because it was literally one of the most terrible moments of my trail. I have running shorts, and so they're just biting my feet. And then eventually I realized that I could just once again, you rely on what you have. So I just walked with my long sleeve shirt in front of my legs, and then it mostly didn't bother me, but I could not make my way through them. They were killing me. I didn't know what stinging nettles were until then. And then I definitely
until New York State.
Until the Catskills.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So you what was your impression when you started to hit the Catskills? I mean, you get to Wyndham High Peak. That's an easy, not an easy climb, and then you go down beautiful Burt Knob and Acre Point, but then you start hitting Blackhead. That's when you start hitting the justice of the Catskills.
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing it now. I mean, it's really funny. Just the whole time, I had no clue what I was getting into. I absolutely had no clue. The way that I plan these trips out is I plan where I'm going to sleep, or sorry, where I should sleep every night. And that's the only planning I actually do, because I'm like, how many days do I think it will take me? And then how many miles should I do every day? And so when I put it into Komoot, which is like a GPS tracking, or it's kind of like a long hike planner thing, and you just say, I want to do this in 8 days. Where should I stop? And then it tries its best to give you what it thinks is an even every day. And I remember it was telling me to do like 20 some odds in the Catskills, and then like 50 or 50-ish miles, high 40s on the other parts. And I'm like, that's crazy. I'll just, make the average 40 every day, because how did I feel when I got to the escarpment trail? And then the next part was absolutely just blown out. I was so tired starting that day that I made it to, it looks like the Batavia Kill Lean-To. That's where I took it to. Yeah, Batavia Kill Lean-To. Took a 1 hour nap there because I finally just decided to give in to the sleep. There was no way I could fight it. So I took a 1 hour nap there, and then I continued that day, and I wish I hadn't, because I thought I'd be able to keep up a pace that day. And very quickly, I learned that the Catskills are very difficult. And that day, I ended up camping at North-South Lake, having only done pretty much all of the escarpment trail, and a good amount of coming down a mountain before it.
Wow. And then, of course, after that, you hit the infamous Devil's Path. What did you think about that beauty?
I feel like I hung out with some guys on the start of the AT who were from New York and from wherever that what's that one shelter on the AT in New York that has 3 letters? Do you know? Someone talks about it, and you can order pizza there. RPH shelter. Sorry.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I remember them saying Devil's Path a couple times as like a thing that they trained when they went to it. And I was like, how bad can it be? And I mean, it's just really difficult when you're in multi-days into the trip. I also realized I really should have gone northbound. If you're ever trying to do the FKT, it really benefits you to go northbound, because trying to do this with what amounts to 6 days of food on your back is very, very difficult. And even though my pack's light, I wouldn't have flown through it, but I definitely dragged through the Devil's Path. And that entire day, I started at north-south. I went from north-south all the way to Werner Creek, right?
Oh, nice.
And I mean, man, that was a long day, and it was very difficult for me because I did not know what I was getting into. And that was the first day that I didn't get poured on, but I still got rained on.
Oh, so did you get any views from the Devil's Path and stuff like that? Because
I didn't see a single view until day 6.
So, dude, that sucks.
Are the Catskills pretty? Are they good? I wouldn't know. That's a beauty of hiking, right? Sometimes you work hard and don't get the good thing, and then when something like that happens, I just have to be like, well, that's the way it was supposed to be, guys. Isn't this fun? That's what I say to the people that don't go on the hike with me the subsequent year.
Yeah. I mean, they have almost every peak has a phenomenal viewpoint that you can just cherish and just be like, oh man, this is definitely worth it. But going up Devil's Path and not having a viewpoint and to be like, oh hell yeah, that 1,200 foot climb in 1 mile was worth it. No,
I was in the Minnewaukee State Preserve, and that was the first time I could actually see out into the distance and be like, oh, this is really pretty. But I have no clue if the Catskills are nice. I just know that 5 feet in front of me is where I was putting my foot for 2 days.
So it sounds like to me you have a little retrograde amnesia from a traumatic experience when you hit the vertical madness of the Catskills.
It doesn't play around. No, that day from north south all the way to Warner, it was really tough, but at least it was kind of dry because I could appreciate how hard that would be in a downpour.
Oh, horrible.
But the subsequent day coming from Warner all the way to, what's that last mountain that kind of defines it? Samson.
Samson.
Yeah. You come through Phoenicia, cross 28, go up Samson, head over
that
to
still
Whit.
count as the Catskills? I hope so.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're in the heart of it.
Okay, so that second day, like I was one of the biggest rainstorm. I mean, in 8,000 miles of hiking, it was definitely one of the biggest rainstorms I've ever hiked in. And I'm not usually hiking on trails that are that vertical, so I've only ever experienced it once in New Hampshire in the AT. But yeah, it was. People always say it's like waterfalls coming down. But it was like waterfalls coming down for that entire day. I was going over Cornell, Slide, Wittenberg, Pickamoose, Romer, through Phoenicia and Temper. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible.
Wow. So you got absolutely no views through the fucking Catskills.
Yeah. And you're getting pelted with rain. That they say that Slide is kind of like a mini rainforest.
Yeah.
Itself. But so Chris, here you've been on the trail 5 days as of this point, sleeping when you can. What's your head like at this time? You're a little sleep deprived. What's going on upstairs? How focused are you?
I wish I was more sleep deprived, honestly. I mean, okay, once again, I lied. Apparently, the way that I also prepared was this was the first trip I ever brought caffeine gummies on, so that I could get a little bit more caffeine in. I always drink coffee. Usually I drink a hot coffee, but I went no stove this time. So I usually drink a coffee to start the day. This time I had cold coffee to start the day, had a gummy right as I drank the coffee so that maybe that would hit and wake me up. But Day 1 and 2, I was sleep deprived. Day 3, I slept that 1 hour at the lean-to I shouldn't have slept at for 1 hour. And then by the time I made it to north-south, I made it to north-south at 6 p.m. Or 7 p.m. And because I didn't appropriately pack for gear, because one thing I'm always trying to do is have as light as possible. So I brought a really bad sleeping bag. I didn't feel confident in hiking out and then sleeping in my sleeping bag under my tarp. And so I stayed inside a changing clothes hut, which does that count as support? Once again, it's kind of a gray area, but they say you can't sleep in a bathroom, but also it's not a bathroom. It's a changing clothes hut. It's a very gray area. It was not insulated from the cold, but it was 4 walls. So it's more like a lean-to then, right? And lean-tos are definitely accepted and unsupported.
I see a lot of ad hoc backpedaling. With this rationalization here. So at the moment, your thought process said this is okay.
Yeah,
so,
and so I
run with that. We'll run with that.
I slept in the open air. In the open air changing bathroom at north south, and then I was good with sleep for the rest of the trail because of that. But that was because I stopped at 7, and honestly, I never in a million years would have thought I stopped at 7. My FKT mindset is 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's go time. And then you better get to sleep in because that's sleep time, which is a bummer when I'm trying to cook my food. And that's why I went no cook, because if 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. is sleep time, in order to be ready to go at 4 a.m., that means I got to wake up at 3:15 to start cooking. I'm a very bad slow packer, which is once again why I'm a bad FKTer. And then by the time I get to camp, it's 10 p.m. I heat up a quick bit of water because I've already cold soaked some of the water, the food, pour in a bunch of hot water onto the cold soaked food so that it's warm. And by that time I finish eating, it's 10:45, 10:35. Think about that. You just cut in. Now you're getting 5 hours of sleep max. You could have maximized that, gotten a little bit more. And so I'm actually a bad FKTer when it comes to sleep because I'm just such a baby. I give in, and I did give in because I stopped at 7 p.m. But then again, I also gave in because I would have been so cold. And I should have if I had just brought my 40 degree sleeping bag, it would have been okay. But instead I went with a Sea to Summit, basically sleeping bag liner. I thought it would be okay. It was a bad call.
Wow.
And I shivered every single night.
Yeah.
Wow.
That sounds pretty thin.
Yeah.
A sleeping bag liner.
It was cold when I took that 1 hour nap at 11 p.m. Let's just call it, or 11 a.m. It wasn't good.
Wow. So like with your sleeping bag and such, like now were you supplied kind of like what were you prepared for as in terms of like the weather as in cold nights and stuff like that besides the sleeping bag, like extra layers? Like I know you got to go minimal with
Yeah. Very little, you just go, well, will I be able to work it out? And like I said, it's you versus nature. And so what's my plan if I got too cold? You keep on walking, right? Like nothing can go wrong if you start moving and get your body warm. And like, that's something that I'm willing to do that I think maybe at some point some other people wouldn't be willing to do. Like I said, I did not expect as much rain as I got. I got that Hurricane Bertha. Is that what it was?
yeah, you're right.
I had hurricane, like that rain that I say, it wasn't
Mhm.
normal rain. That was Hurricane Bertha that was over me when I was in the hard part of the Catskills where I said I was walking up waterfalls. It was not good timing. But you know, as far, whatever bad thing could happen to me in the woods, I believe I could get out of it. Or I believe I'd be smart enough to not test it. And so I slept at 7 p.m. at North South instead of walking 2 hours, making 5 extra miles because I was, concerned that I would not be able to stay warm enough in order to, number one, fall asleep, and number two, just like be able to complete. So, you got to be responsible in some way. If you're going to be stupid, be smart. That's a quote.
So
Gotcha.
if you were not to camp at North South Lake and you were to go another 2 hours, where would you have camped?
Well, I saw a trailer that had like the front of it was broken. I actually was remiss that I didn't keep on walking. An hour and 20 minutes later, a broken trailer parked inside, on a corner.
On your right-hand side,
On the
as you're
right
going
hand,
downhill.
I
Going into
absolutely would've slept.
Palinville. Yeah.
I absolutely would have slept in that.
No,
No,
you wouldn't.
no.
Did you look
0.5
inside
later,
said trailer? Did you look inside of it?
I would have gone for it. I'm certain.
No.
0.5 later, porta potty, would have slept in that. It's if it's dry, it's better than being cold. I don't care about smell. I don't care about anything else. I'm going for what do you care about, right? And I care about being dry. And so whatever, cover my nose, go to sleep. Call it a day.
Jesus Christ.
Damn.
This is taking a whole nother turn of FKT of like I will freaking do whatever I can to get this fastest known time.
So
I mean, it was a giant. My favorite game to play every morning hiking is I should have camped there. That's my favorite game.
Mm-hmm.
And when I woke up that morning, I was like, oh, I could have gotten 5 more miles. Let's play the game for the next 2 hours. And when I passed that trailer, oh, glorious. When I passed that toilet, I was so angry at myself. Because if I had known they were there, I absolutely would have gone over the mountain and camped there.
Wow.
Without a doubt.
Damn.
That blows my freaking mind.
I'm not FKT material now because I'm not sleeping in a porta potty. That's where I draw the line.
Like I said earlier, I'm kind of weird. Like it's not that bad. It could be worse.
It could be. I gotta admit, it could be worse. So now you've gone into the Catskills and stuff, and you've gotten into the rain. I gotta admit, going up Woodland Valley, up Wittenberg Cornell slide during the rain has got to be an absolute tragic mess.
It was, I mean, I saw 3. You say that there's 300 times the visitors. I saw like 3 people all that day. Only like the stupid, people that were dumb enough to also go out. Because why are you trying to go up then? I did not see almost anyone. It was bad. There was one point, speaking of like just calling it a day, I was like, I can't do this. That night I ended up sleeping at the lean-to that's before Table Mountain. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's a beautiful spot.
Yeah. I slept at that oh, that was a great lean-to. But I slept at that lean-to, but before that, what was the question? I'm sorry.
The rain hitting that the Woodland Valley area, because that's steep as heck.
About 5 miles before that, as I'm getting drenched, I remember just looking under rocks, where there was a big rock overhang, and looking like, is this kind of flat? And could I light the pine straw on fire under there to make a fire so that I could like group it all? And then I don't know, because there's no way that I would start a forest fire. It was so wet. Like everything was soaked, but under the rocks, like, well, that pine straw was dry. I thought I could push it to the side, make a hot drink camp under there-ish, and call it a day. And I was honestly getting pretty desperate coming off of, what's the name of that mountain? In the Burroughs Range, Cornell Crook and Slide. Yeah, I there were a couple like overhangs of rock that were very thin or that did not have that much space under, but honestly all I needed was like a body's length under to lay down because it was so wet and it was so bad that day. And then I was like, oh, I can make it 5 miles to Table Mountain, but I mean by the end of that my feet were destroyed. That's the one thing that no matter how much hiking I've never been able to fully understand and compensate for is how messed up your feet get, because it gets bad.
Yeah.
So tell us, what type of feet problems were you having
right.
on
That's
this hike?
a big thing.
It's not necessarily like even blisters. I got 2 or 3 blisters max, kind of on my heels. After all the hiking, you kind of figure out what your system is, and if your system works for you, go for it. So in Gingy, Ultra Run toe liners is what I wear, mostly because that string bean guy who also wore the Palante vest also uses toe socks. So if he's doing it, why not try it?
Chris, that is the Gingy stuff, that toe liners, I gotta admit, is absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, keep going. Sorry, I had to interrupt because I love that. I wish I would have known that before.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've only, before that, the only other blisters I ever really got were my toes rubbing together. And so, that stops it, and then I can walk much further. So yeah, I wear Injinji toe liners and just regular Ultra Olympus trail runners, which got absolutely soaked, but it's better to wear something that will be able to get soaked and eventually dry than like one of those Gore-Tex ones that will get wet and stay wet. And honestly, when I was going over Cornell, Table Slide, right, all those ones, like the water at some points, because I guess, maybe it puddled or something, it got like knee deep. And I was like, man, I'm sure this trail is great. So it wouldn't have mattered if I had been wearing those other ones, because there was so much water everywhere. It was miserable. And what happens to my feet is just prune, prune times 10. You prune all day. I don't know how to solve that problem. I think what you have to do is keep baby powder, put it on multiple times per day. But I don't know how you win the battle that I was waging when I was hiking through the Catskills. I don't think it's possible. You just have to endure. And so by the end of that day, my feet were rubbed raw. I was limping. It was really bad. But once again, like this FKT was interesting. The other 2, I had like a goal in mind and I followed it 100%. I gave it my all. I know it's a fast time, but I'm a little disappointed by it because like I slept at 7 o'clock at North South. I slept at I think 7 o'clock at Table Mountain. I said 4 to 10 is the time. And both of those days I gave up hours, and I could just imagine like a ghost self, like that's the time I could have had. And my goal, and I kind of heard Kim say it when she was on it. She didn't say it out loud, but I could hear it in her voice. My goal was to try to do that, to break the guy's record, right? Like 7 days, 12 hours, like whatever the actual supported record, that was my goal. And I feel like I heard her say it, even though she didn't say it out loud. That's what I wanted. That was my A goal. My B goal was to beat the self-supported, which means, they picked up any supplies on the way. I didn't hit that. And it's 100% because I lost focus. I lost focus the day going up Table. I, went to sleep at 7. And then when I woke up, it was 9 or 8 a.m. So I slept in that day because that just hurricane was just pounding the shelter. And I was like, I can't go. I can't walk. I don't feel like walking. And so I just sat there. I really slept in. I really enjoyed the morning, 8 a.m. It's funny when 8 a.m. sleeping on, but the 8 a.m. I started packing up and I was like, okay, let's like reset her and go. But I left hours on the table by my own choice. And then, as we'll say later, I left hours on the table by someone else's.
Yeah. So I don't know if I agree with you, frankly. I mean, did you, it sounds like you really had some hard conditions here. I mean, just epically hard from the rain, the blisters, some stuff not going in sync for you. And could you really, from North-South Lake, continued on for 5 more miles and then slept and it not caught up with you the next day? I don't know. you know.
I mean, I think North South Lake, I would have made it. The next day, it was also, you know what it was? It was also the battle of warmth. If I had, and this is on me then, like if I had just brought my summer quilt, I would have felt okay sleeping under my poncho tarp. Sea to Summit Gatewood poncho tarp, by far the best tent I've ever owned in my entire hiking life. It's a poncho.
It doubles as a poncho. Yeah.
Yeah. Purpose. And I would have slept under that if I had been sure I would be warm. I slept in the shelter because I was sure I would be able to keep that warmth. And also because, once again, does this count as unsupported? If someone left wood there at a shelter in a stack right next to the fire and you utilize that, is that support?
Jesus Christ, all these rules.
I mean, but does that count as support? It's a great question, and it's not defined on the FKT website. Maybe one day they'll rein that in, but I absolutely did use wood that was stacked right next to a fire in order to make a fire during my FKT attempt. I'm so sorry, other unsupported people.
I mean, we're going to have to disqualify you now. Stosh, delete Chris's name from the leaderboard.
Yeah, you guys can talk to my dog for the rest of the interview. He's much more interesting.
So let's skip forward to the end. We'll say you're next to the last day, which you thought was your last day.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. So tell us how that day unfolds. It's you wake up, right? You think it's your last day. You have how many miles to cover to Manhattan?
Well, I mean, kind of the last 2 days were like one large push, right? Like I started with 100 miles left. 105 miles left. So second to last day was 50 or 49.8 because, why round up? And then the last day, sleeping in Bear Mountain was 55 miles away, right? And so, wake up in Bear Mountain, get started really early. I guess I started getting kind of loopy because I did cry listening to an episode of This American Life at one point at 4:00 in the morning. It was very emotional.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that was the most sleep deprived I got, except for the beginning. But yeah, and so I do.
Probably should have listened to one of our podcasts and you would have fell asleep right away.
Yeah,
you're like, God, this is so boring.
I was fighting some demons as the day continued because I'm hiking. And I honestly thought that Palisades Parkway, what would be mostly flat, would have started much earlier around Rockland State Park, but I was very wrong, and it just kept on squiggling left and right in different directions. So I'm hiking all day. I would have started at 4 a.m. And by the way, of course, I made a fire the final morning to cook my coffee hot. And so I really woke up at 3:15 to make a fire on an unsupported effort because, of course, I'm drinking hot coffee and eating oatmeal. I had fully given up on no cook. I don't believe in it, and I never will again. I get started at 4 a.m. on the dot, and I'm walking. I probably sit down 4 or 5 times all day. And over the course of the day, I don't know, like I stumble upon a TV set at one point, right? Like they're shooting the Netflix series You at the top of a mountain. And I just climbed to the top of a mountain, and then some guy stops me. I'm 35 miles into a day, and some guy stops me and goes, whoa, 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 you can't cross this line. They're filming over there. And I'm like, I'm 35 miles into a day. Please let me walk. I have 20 more miles left. Like, I need to go. And then he pauses, and he's like, okay, just wait for them to finish filming the scene. And then I walk past him. And I'm like, no one here understands what's happening, except, it's just a very strange thing to happen. And so
what I walk. Fuck?
Yeah, that was 20 miles left. I finally get to Palisades Parkway, and the sun starts setting. And then after the sun sets, as the sun was setting, probably around 6 p.m., I've been walking at 14 hours at that point. My left foot starts getting numb because this is the only day I actually jog. For me, like hiking fast is about just not taking breaks. Like I don't jog. I go at a walking pace all day. But this last day I was trying to get it done. I was trying to put up a good time. And so I start jogging. And after 16 hours, my left foot kind of starts getting compartment syndrome, which is something that I had previously when I did the South Beyond 6000 FKT. And it just feels terrible and worse every time I jog, because I guess slamming my foot on the ground every single moment. And so at some point I decide to put like both shoe insoles in the shoe that is giving me problems so that there's more cushion. And honestly, that starts working. And I start listening to Holding Out for a Hero, and I'm listening to this song for at least 50 to 60 an hour straight, like on repeat, the song Holding Out for a Hero on the Footloose soundtrack, jogging in the dark on the Palisades Parkway, passing by groups of people that I don't think it's safe to pass by in the dark on a trail. Does not seem like a good idea, but since you jog by them, I guess they don't want to mess with the dude that's going down the trail faster than them, you know? And then finally, I make it to the George Washington Bridge after pushing for 48 hours to do 105. For the last 20, I guess it only took me like 19 to 18 hours to do the 55. And after pushing all that, I show up, and then there's a lock on the gate, and I immediately die inside. There's a number on the lock that says, hey, if you need us, call us, right? Whatever, the bridge people. And so I called that number, and I was like, hey, is the bridge closed at night and you can't walk across it at all? And then the guy on the end of the phone goes, yes. And I was like, okay, that's how it goes. Like, goodbye. Because sometimes, like, that's how FKTs go. Like, there are rules about, you know, getting support. And if someone walked to the door to unlock it, does that count as support? I think it does, right? Wow. And so I'm just stuck at this point. I have to wait for what would be available for every single person, so it can't be support.
Wow, and you're a freaking hard-headed guy. Jesus Christ.
But that's the thing about Supported. I kind of like it, the like nobility, and you have to play by the rules, and there are very strict rules. And if you break the rules, like, no one knows if you picked up a hot dog when I went through, you know, Phoenicia. I could have gotten an entire burger going through Phoenicia, right? Like, there was plenty of times to resupply, period. Mm-hmm. So it's like there's a bit of integrity that you have to have in order to have one of these records. And I'm like, do I ask them to open it for me? I don't think I'm allowed to. And so unfortunately, I missed the cutoff. I guess it was 12, like 30 some odd in the morning, and I think they lock it at 12. And so I just got to wait till 6 a.m. So I just sleep just right next to a locked gate. It really smells like poop. I think I might have got a poop on my backpack, because on the Amtrak bag,
Jesus Christ,
the Amtrak lady at one point goes like, there is something wrong up here, gesturing to where my backpack is, which might have just been the general smell of it. And when the guy unlocks it, he's like, did you spend the night out here? And I was like, I mean, I called and you guys said it was locked. And he's like, if you had told us you were stuck here, we would have unlocked it. I'm like, but I don't know if it would have been okay for me. So, yeah, I jogged across the bridge the last 2 miles in 9 hours and 30 some odd minutes from the start. We finished, but man, that last day was a lot of emotions, and I have never been so angry as I was when I saw that lock.
I could only imagine.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
That's pretty harsh, man.
And then what happened when you finished? Like, what is, like, your car was down there and you just went home?
You know, I am tracked up, so I had a day in New York. Like, I think one of my dreams has always been to go to Las Vegas and just go buffet crazy after a long trail. And so what better place to go food crazy than New York City? Like, that's honestly the reason I wanted to hike southbound, was to end a trail in New York City so I could just go food crazy. And so that was Chicken Fat's Pizza Day. And I went to 7 or 8 different pizza restaurants, got one slice each, and I just kept on riding around the city and eating pizza for an entire, 18. Well, I went to sleep when I showed up at home, there, but it feels really weird to have to keep on moving after an FKT. Like, all you want to do is relax, but I'm like, when else am I going to be able to eat this much New York pizza in one day? So yeah, I got a lot of pizza in about 20 hours.
So how was that pizza?
Very good. Yeah. I mean, I have no negatives. I've been looking forward to just like hitting as many pizza places as I possibly could in New York for years. And so I'm glad that I finally did it. My dream was to walk from pizza place to pizza place, so you burn off the calories. But I think I was okay having previously burnt off a calorie or two. I think I lost like 5, maybe 10 pounds on the trail, and that's what you do with teaching. I bulk up in the teaching year and I slim down during the summer.
Wow. Now, so how did the long path compare to the other trails that you have done? Of course, you've done the Triple Crown and stuff like that. What can you say about the long path?
Oh, I mean, it's really interesting. I think part of it for me, I mean, I've even done the Northville Placid Trail too. So I was thinking, like, of all the states in the United States, New York has to be like the 5th most miles I've hiked doing the AT long path and now Northville Placid Trail, like of any state in the entire US. But for me, I think it's a really interesting trail in the sense that, like, those Catskills really do present themselves as like the gem of the trail, and then the rest of it felt almost like similar to other trails where there's a lot of road walking, and I mean, you get to be in the woods too, but like every time you pass literally through a town, it kind of like eliminates the thought of trail. But like what made it unique and very interesting for me was like that Catskill portion, which I wish I had been able to enjoy, but I did not as much as I wanted to.
Come back up here when there's views and you'll get to enjoy it. I mean, that sucks. I got to admit, like going through the whole Devil's Path without a view and then up Woodland Valley and all that, goddamn, like it blows your mind away. And to look at that, I mean, I don't know if you got to see them when coming from the Amtrak, but they look like just little hills. They're not like huge mountains, but then once you get to them, you're like, holy shit, this packs a punch.
I mean, I when I was on the High Point Trail at Minnewaca State Park Preserve, I remember like looking and I was like, oh man, that would have been so nice if only. But you can't if only hiking. You only get what you get, and so that's how it was when I was in the Whites in New England doing that one really long like ridge walk in New England on the AT that I can't remember, like Grafton or whatever. I can't remember what it's called, but like, yeah, I think that Lafayette and other included things. I did not get any views that day too. That was the other day I was in a torrential downpour that felt like I was walking up a waterfall. So I have no clue.
Same. Wow, we had a similar experience. When you talk about, going up the Woodland Valley area, Wittenberg, Slide, Cornell. I had the same experience going up the Pemigosset Loop, and I did not know about those socks, and I got like at least 8 to 9 blisters, and it was absolutely horrible. So
you get what you get, and that's the beauty of hiking.
You live and learn. You freaking live and learn, and that's what you got. So Ted, anything else, buddy?
I don't know. I mean, Chris, how do you do it? I mean, it sounds like
Jesus Christ,
doing one of these fastest known times completely unsupported is miserable.
Yes,
but we just spent the last 2 hours with you. You seem like a fun, upbeat guy.
You get it. Get it. Like I don't get it at all.
Yeah,
I'm
you're like
weird. And like I said to my kids,
you're really twisted, and you shouldn't be teaching high schoolers. or there's something about this that you're just not telling us that makes the fun, upbeat Chris want to subject himself to just like day after day of cold, soggy jambalaya and caffeine gummies.
The jambalaya is good. Cold
wet clothes, no sleep, sleeping in porta
Sleeping
potties.
in doesn't sound bad.
Sleeping in when you sleep in a porta potty, which sounds like something that you've done before.
Yes.
Where do you actually sleep?
You sleep as far away from the toilet as you can.
There's not more than an inch away from the toilet.
Well, it's the one that's near the RV is a handicapped porta potty, which maybe we're forgetting, and so that is I couldn't sleep in a regular one because I couldn't stretch out. Not worth your time, right? But if I could lay down on my pad in a handicap potty, like that's plenty of room.
Wow.
I'm speechless here. I'm signing off. Okay.
He's holding his head.
Yeah, this is how he spends his summer vacations. He teaches all year long, looking forward to going out, walking in the rain, sleeping in porta potties.
And you know what? My sponsors know what I'm getting into, and I say that's fucked up.
Yeah. Well,
100%.
I guess, Chris, what you're not telling us is it's all about the pizza at the end of the hike.
That's there's a lot of benefits. Losing weight is great. And just the guy that did the PCT said it. It's just type 2 fun. That I absolutely hated it when I was doing it. But I love a sense of accomplishment. Like that's why I wanted the AT at the very beginning of all of it. I wanted to feel like I've done something. It's not these aren't the world's hardest records. Someone's definitely going to beat this FKT one day, right? Like I didn't set it down and be like, if I had gotten the supported one, then that would have been nice. But like someone's going to beat this because there's a lot of wiggle room in here. But
you were the first. You were the first to freaking do it. So
people have done it unsupported, certainly. Maybe
unsupported, supported.
390 is a long way to carry your food. Let's be real. You're right. It probably who knows how many people have done that.
So how often did you think about quitting?
I mean, I got the mindset. It's the hardest day of a hike is the first day. But when you're only out for 8 days, I think I've done too much hiking for a 9-day trip to feel big anymore. I at a long trail when I was without my wife for 2 months last summer. It's tough on the first day. Every single time, but 9 days is nothing. That's a regular work trip for so many people, and that's the only reason I'd ever go back. It's because I just can't emotionally hang, but physically I feel like I'm able to do the things that I need to do out there, and so it would have to be some sort of mental game. And I mean, you heard my mental status was wavering. Sleeping in, that's a weak mental state. So it was wavering, but eyes on the prize. And I knew as a one consolation, since no one's done the unsupported FKT, as long as I finished, it was good, at least for setting the record. And so, I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to do it in 9 days and 36 hours or whatever.
36 minutes.
Yeah.
I know your stats more than me. Crazy. So once again, thank you for joining us, Chris. Last question. You had so much pizza in New York. What is your post-hike brews and bites suggest? And what was your favorite slice of pizza?
There was that one, I think it's called like Diamato's in Brooklyn, or I don't know. Honestly, I just went there, but I remember like the story was every single pizza that they had ever made was by the one old dude that made the pizza since the 60s. Then unfortunately I saw that he died like 5 years ago. And so other people were making the pizzas, even though they had his picture up there. So that was my favorite pizza because I had it 5 years ago. It was my favorite pizza. Had it that other day, and well, it was the first pizza I ate because I wanted to enjoy the first one I had. So that would be my post-hike brews and bites after an endless long trail Sufferfest.
Nice. 9 hours, 9 days, 35 minutes. Absolutely phenomenal. So thank you once again for joining us tonight. Really want to appreciate the monthly supporters and monthly sponsors. You guys are doing so much for the show and for the Catskills, let alone. Thank you to everybody who's donated yet again to the 1 Mile Challenge and to the show. Thank you to everyone who is still listening. Of course, Chris listened to the 10 episodes, which is insane. It's actually to think that anybody who's listened to 10 episodes is pretty crazy.
I'm looking forward to adding this to the background podcast feed on my next hike. Like all I do is listen to podcasts all day. So I really like your guys like hyper area, hyper geographic podcast. Like listening to all this Catskill stuff has just been really funny to even just hear the weather from a podcast a year ago. I'm like, wow, it's funny that you guys do this. So I love it.
Hell yeah. So thank you for joining us tonight, Chris. Hope to see you again in the future. Good luck on setting in some FKTs in the future. And we look forward to hearing about your amazing accomplishments later on.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me.
Take care, Chris.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Hey everyone, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking news, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you gotta just keep on living in the Catskills, man. Livin.
Wicked, 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 wicked.